Welcome to Hollywood and Hollywild Radio. My name is Dave Thomas. If my voice sounds familiar, it's because you've been listening to it for years. I've voiced everything in showbiz in the last 40 years, and I've made some incredible friends from working a microphone. I was lucky enough to learn early that two things are worth collecting in life: friends and experiences. And in this show, I'll share both. Let me tell you how I ended up here. 4 years ago, I was confronted with the real possibility of being homeless. I couldn't afford to live where I worked, and my hometown of Hollywood never liked old people because they're not young. Thankfully, I have a home studio, and interestingly, now that technology has nearly killed my industry, having it has saved my career. I don't have to be in Hollywood to work there. For 3 years, I searched the world over for a place close to the art world, but far enough away that it was still pristine and I, a scale voiceover actor, could afford to live and retire once my voice stopped working. And, of course, I hope that never happens, but it will. Someday. When it does happen, it won't be on a curb, dying of hypothermia and malnutrition on a sidewalk. If Hollywood and Hollywild works and goes well, I will be in a familiar environment, surrounded by artists, collaborating on new things in new ways, using art to encourage a future that favors everyone, from the sublime beauty of the Sierra Nevadas, surrounded by deer and turkey and bobcat and skunks and tarantulas. The next most important thing I learned from 40 years in entertainment and the arts is sharing. Remarkably, sharing always answers artistic or personal goals in indirect ways that make life better for both parties. It's easy to promote and brag on great work, and there is something wonderfully selfishly satisfying in helping hardworking people you strike a chord with. Those like-minded kindred spirits. Those friends. There are three types of people: those who talk about things, those who talk about people, and those who talk about ideas. I've always attracted the latter, and in my long career, I've had amazing conversations, and I've met even more amazing people, from the Dalai Lama to President Kennedy. On this show, I'll be hanging with close friends, mostly professionals paying rent from making art, in all forms, in literature, paint, film, music, science, medicine, library science. Moving to the doorstep of Yosemite National Park didn't end my connections to Hollywood, and the Hollywild out here has given me time and inspiration I could never have realized in the city. And my dream is to create an artist facility where artists work in a natural, healthy environment with zero carbon footprints, alongside unrelated disciplines and artistic mediums. Potters and poets, photographers and dancers, scientists and sculptors, or directors and musicians, all sharing dinner at one great table, breaking bread and talking about ideas. To reach that goal, I created a vehicle I made from my box of experiences and friends. It's called Hollywood and Hollywild. It produces a website with a blog, a monthly podcast with connections to social media like Instagram and YouTube, and this radio show. Plus, there are exciting collaborations in the works, like an album and a new kind of music to share with you all on upcoming radio shows from some of the greatest musicians in the world. In the distance, I can see a TV show. This whole project is one big collaboration by some of the best professionals in the arts. Working with people of that caliber is, well, a wild ride, and doesn't really have a compromise if your only goal is to find the absolute best. Was it complicated? Yeah. But the pieces fall together like magic. I hope it's as easy to listen to as it was for me to create. On today's show, we'll meet a famous commercials director, Simon Cole, Amanda Fletcher, director of the Emerging Voices Fellowship for PEN America, and hang out with rock star Eric Schermerhorn, who shredded guitars for Bowie, Iggy, The. This is Hollywood in Hollywild Radio on 98.5 LPFM and KRYZradio.org in Mariposa, California. So we're here with one of my good friends, Mr. Eric Schermerhorn. Eric has played with lots of rock stars, and he's performed for hundreds of thousands of people and concerts and stuff. And I mean, you know, he's that cool dude that stands up in front of the band and like does this ripping guitar solo, and everybody's pulling their hair out, going, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool!" So Eric, thanks for coming on the show.
Sure, David, of course, man.
And I mean, I know some of the people that you've played with. You've played with so many. Can you give us, a quick rundown of some of the people that you played with?
The first, it was funny, the first big tour I did, I was living in New York, and I got an audition. My buddy of mine got me an audition with Tin Machine David Bowie's band in L.A. The audition was out here, and that was 1991.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so Bowie was the first big tour. Before that, I had my own bands that we.
So did you fly out to L.A.?
Yeah, for an audition from New York. Yeah. And I met him, and we played. I knew all the songs for the audition. I was ready. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the moment where you go, "Oh, my life could change tomorrow,"
and it did.
And it did. And I was like, "Wait a minute, my life, yeah, those." And that, you know, everyone's got a few of those moments in their life, whether they know it or not.
Right. So who else? Who else did you play with besides Dave?
Bowie,
that was 2 years, right?
Yeah, 2 years. It was a tour, which was unbelievable because that was a world tour. The first time I'd done a world tour, and it was unbelievable being with him
just
every
hanging
day.
out.
Like we were on the same bus. It was a very small group of people, and it was very hanging out every day. It was a great break for him because he wasn't doing his greatest hits stuff anymore. So it was really a lot less people. And on the same bus. So, it was fantastic for me. And then after that, I did play with Iggy because they're connected. The road manager was like, Scottish guy. Eric, Iggy's looking for a guitar player. So I got that gig after Bowie.
And how long did you play with Iggy?
Probably from 4 years. It's 93, 93, 4, 5, 3 years, 4 years, I think, actually. We did 2 records with him. I wrote with him, and we toured a bunch, world tours, and that was crazy. That was like, because he's such a force of nature. I mean, both those guys are, but Iggy's like, he wants to be James Brown. Like, he's a crazy front man, you know?
Yeah.
And so Iggy, and then was still living in New York, and then I played with the British band. I did 2 records with Matt, and that was in the 90s. Then They Might Be Giants, then Lucinda Williams, then Shelby Lynn, Eagle Eye Cherry. And then I moved out here in 2001 to LA, and I got the gig with Seal, which was about 5 years of Seal.
Wow.
Oh, and then after Seal was Lucinda Williams. And then after that was 2009. And then my kids were getting older. I had 2 boys. And that's when I was like, I don't want to travel anymore. It was really like hitting me, like not being home was not good. So that's when I started doing voiceover. 2010 is when I started voiceover, and that's how I met you, right?
And you got right into the show that you're doing now on voiceover.
Yeah, in 2011, and then I met you at that party, our agent's party.
Oh, really? Wow, that was that long ago.
Yeah, I don't remember when we met, but that's kind of the trajectory I had with music, was that 20 years, and then going, oh God, I gotta stay home. And
actually known each other for a lot longer than I was giving myself credit.
And I think also session work as a guitar player, there was a lot of session work here in LA for me through those years, but that's really dropped off. Like recording records, it's really dropped off.
The whole, people are doing, all these projects out of their bedrooms now.
Yeah. So music took a hit, right?
Yeah.
And no one's bailing out the music business the way they're bailing out the coal mines and the farmers.
or pharma.
Pharma.
Those the tax breaks that they get is just unreal.
So the musicians took a hit because it's downloading and Napster, and music became free. Music became devalued, unfortunately.
Which the same amount of work goes into it. It just I don't understand how it could get cheaper. But that's what happens when you got a bunch of people valuing something that don't know how to hit an E chord.
Yeah.
They have no appreciation for skill or making anything with their hands. We were talking about getting sick in the entertainment business, and I've been sick now. I've had sort of a walking pneumonia now for 2 months, and my voice is not back yet completely.
Right.
But how many times did Iggy or David not do a show because they were sick?
Well, that's interesting, man, because they never missed a show, regardless how bad they felt. And those guys were consummate. Bowie, they were both. Iggy had a real blue-collar work, which was amazing because he's a Midwestern dude, but his dad was a history teacher, a smart guy, read a lot of books, but he still had a real crazy work ethic, Iggy. And I remember being sick once, having the flu on the road with him, and I remember the road manager pulling up a bucket behind my amp to puke in.
During the show.
It was the show must go on. It just
so you would you'd be in a guitar solo and you just casually walk behind your amp and your Marshall stack.
Puking. It was like that back then. It was like that. You'd be sweating a fever and you'd have to play. There was no I can't do the show tonight. That wasn't never even.
That's not an option. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was not an option. And because he did it every night. None of, you know what? I don't think they ever missed a show ever. And they'd warm up their voices beforehand. I remember Bowie doing exercises warming up.
Oh yeah, I do exercises every day.
Yep.
I do a lot less of them when I'm sick because I need some for the performance.
Right.
But
those guys, there's a work ethic that I think people don't see maybe, but it's there. Seriously.
And that just blows my mind because when you think about, there's only one way to be able to play an instrument really well, and that's you have to have a work ethic and you have to practice every day for 30 hours a day, and that's the only way you get great.
But I think also back though, we didn't have distractions like today. I think today, back when we were growing up, me in the 70s in Massachusetts in the suburbs, it was nothing was happening. TV was boring, right? Nothing was on TV. And you'd sit in your bedroom listening to records, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing to do.
Well, I stopped. I stopped. And I had a really hard time with disco when it happened.
Yeah.
Now I can kind of get into it a lot more, and Last Dance and all that stuff.
But at the time, it was.
I couldn't get my head around. I was scared for the world.
Yeah, and I think back then, because boredom's actually a good thing. And I think kids today, my kids, I know lots of kids, it's boredom, they can't handle it.
Yeah. I was talking to a recent guest about, that work ethic. And back in the 50s, people bought stuff that lasted a long time. And, it was a different place. Let me ask you another question, Eric. What do you think is really great advice for young players, young songsmiths?
I think writing, being creative and writing and owning your music and owning it, and not just being a great player or great, sideman, but really writing and creating. Because a lot of people don't write. I don't know how to write a song. I don't, and you're like, well, you've listened to music your whole life. You can steal. Everybody steals riffs or ideas. Unfortunately, like that's how music. They appropriate them.
Yeah, that's what's been happening since Beethoven.
And and so that's how music's written, and you internalize it and you absorb it. And I think my main thing would be learn how to write music, and also learn, like, sit in your room with Pro Tools or Logic on your computer if you're a kid. Because you don't have any bills to pay, right? Your parents are paying for everything. That's when you have time to do 6-hour days sitting in front of your computer making music for free, and then you learn it. As you get older, you can start monetizing it, like write music for film or TV. Learn how to write music for picture, music to picture, and owning your own music is like my advice, more so than, and learn an instrument, but. The days of just being in a band and thinking you're going to be set and it's kind of over. I think you have to be able to write music.
I'm going to bring you back, and we're going to talk about music on another show when I have some other. I'm going to get the Hailers.
Good.
The Hailers sent me 3 songs, bro, and they are just awesome. I can't wait to share them with you, and then we'll discuss those, and we'll talk a little bit about rock and roll again when I bring you back. Let's listen to For Yelenia on the album Lullaby for a Dragonfly by Eric Skirmhorn. You're listening to Hollywood in Hollywild Radio on 98.5 LPFM and KRYZradio.org. Well, I'd like to welcome Amanda Fletcher, who is representing not just herself today, but also PEN America. And we're going to find out more from Amanda what PEN America is. In fact, Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave Thomas.
Oh my gosh, we get to work on so many cool projects together. But
we're very lucky.
Well, this is the first time that we're on the radio together.
I know. Who'd have thunk?
Yeah. So help me explain to my audience what PEN America is.
Absolutely. So PEN America is actually a branch of PEN International. And PEN is not the pen you write with, but it's an acronym that stands for Poets, Essayists, and Novelists. So this was an organization of writers that was founded in 1921, 1922, and writer supporters who believed in the belief that freedom of expression and literature are inseparable, and that the right to write, speak, read, and publish freely are the center of a global culture. So basically, PEN America is just the center in the States. We were at one time a West Coast branch of PEN International, so PEN Center USA has since unified with PEN America, which is a New York office, in order to basically increase our impact on a national level, which is really important now in this political climate, as you well know.
What are some of the recent works that PEN has done that highly impact everybody's life, but probably people don't realize it?
So, basically, I think people don't understand that on an international level, writers are being imprisoned for, it makes sense to hear that it's scary that I would say that, but like a journalist would be imprisoned for something that they wrote against a regime or against a certain government. But other writers are being imprisoned for reading a poem in public or staging a play. Journalists are being murdered for their stories, either by government or by, cartels in Mexico is a perfect example. Books are being banned or burned. We had a campaign where books were being banned in Texas, or actually history was being changed in books in Texas. Whole groups of people whose stories are marginalized, we are taking a stand against that and kind of trying to support them in telling their stories.
And PEN has a lot of people. PEN has a lot of people to make that happen.
Yeah, the organization in the organization in New York, I think is about probably close to between 30 and 40 members strong. We've got 5 of us here in the LA office. And basically, you actually made a good point. We're kind of just trying to, in this day and age of false news, and kind of not knowing which way to look for information, happening within our own country.
Yeah.
We've put out a daily newsletter. It's called DARE, Daily Alert on Rights and Expression, the most pressing threats and notable goings-on in free expression today. So it's instead of you having, or the reader having to go out and kind of weed through the nonsense to get to the fact. We've kind of collected articles from trusted news sources and put them all into one email so you can see what's happening in your country.
Okay, so I need to explain to the audience here how important that is to me. So I get an email every day from Penn-Dare, and it's got all of the stories that I really need to know about, so that I can stay abreast of all of the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, and because it's collected by people that I can trust. Now, I should also say that I've been working with Penn in a sort of a side
mentor capacity.
Penn mentor capacity for 16 years almost. Oh my gosh. And I share some of my stuff with the Emerging Voices Fellowship, which is another Penn program, which we're going to talk about in a second. But so I've been working with Penn for a long time, and I can't tell you what an incredible difference that one newsletter every day that I get. My whole browsing has changed now. I check my email. I go right over to the Penn newsletter for the day, and I go down through it, and I'm like, oh, I need to check this out. Oh, I need to check this out. And these are all different publications from all over the country, and sometimes you're getting a story that's really got the lowdown, the 411 on something, and it's not coming from the publication you expect it from. It's coming from something else, and it's so difficult to know where you can get the good intel, and Penn really helps make that happen. Now, you're the Emerging Voices director, is that correct?
I am the Emerging Voices Fellowship manager, but I'll take the director title any day.
Because it sure looks like you direct whenever we're around. Tell us about the Emerging Voices program. This is a pretty
This is my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my baby. Basically, I tell people all the time that I get to be a part of the resistance every day because I get to help these young writers who, for whatever reason, are isolated from the literary establishment, people that have stories to tell. Perhaps they're not popular stories. Perhaps they're stories that aren't being published or are being pushed to, the back of the shelf. So it's like the outsider story. And I get to help those writers become professional write in a professional capacity, have a career as writers. The Emerging Voices Fellowship has been in existence since 1996. It grew out of a panel at the Central Library in downtown Los Angeles, and it was a panel called Writing the Immigrant Experience. And it was basically first-in-generation, largely Latinos in Los Angeles who, I think it was all women, actually. I'd have to go back and check that out. But basically these writers all had stories to tell, all were trying to have careers, be it is short story writers or memoirists or journalists, and they were finding roadblocks in the publishing industry. They were finding roadblocks to taking classes, finding mentors that understood their work, finding people who actually wanted to take a chance on them because their last name sounded different or whatever. So Penn decided to pair some of these writers with mentors, personal mentors, and the program has evolved in the last 20 years to now include, we take 5 writers a year. They are writers who don't have backgrounds in creative writing, so no MFAs, no minors in creative writing, so they don't have any graduate degrees in creative writing.
Right.
And we pair them with a mentor. We give them master classes. They get a UCLA Writers Extension Program class. They get author evenings. So 2 or 3 times a month, they're meeting in a private setting with local authors, editors, publishers, agents. Wow. Monday, they're going to get to meet with small presses that are local, Unnamed Press, Kaya Press. The following 2 weeks from then, they're going to speed pitch their projects to a couple agents. So even though these writers might not be ready, because they are baby writers essentially, they're emerging, they get a sense of what it means to talk about their work in a professional capacity, and maybe it's the first time for these people they've ever met a professional writer, or they've ever taken a class, or they've ever even considered calling themselves, saying the words, I am a writer.
A writer, yeah.
Yeah. And it's so powerful. And I think that, I was having a conversation with someone earlier. I'm on a panel tomorrow at Pasadena Lit Fest discussing, the merits and the pitfalls of MFA programs. And basically this idea that, most students, when they go into an MFA program, they're already calling themselves a writer. That's why they're going into an MFA program. But we're getting these people who, for whatever reason, and they're people of all ages, from 21 to 70, who, for whatever reason, have struggled to be able to say, I am a writer. And we kind of are putting the tools in place to make that a possibility.
Wow. I mean, like I said, I've been working with the Emerging Voices Fellowship for 16 years, and it has been one of the most exciting things that I've done in my career.
Tell them what you do for us.
Okay, so basically what I do is I bring these 5 writers into a professional recording studio, and I teach them how to read their work as the way that I would pick it up and read a piece of copy for an advertisement or a narration. Right. And so I give them all these advertising tricks, all these performance tricks that I've learned in my 40 years of working in front of a microphone, and help them tell their stories in a much more engaging way. Because like anybody, when they work on something really for a long, long time, they know it really well, and they don't really spend a lot of time on how should I actually perform this so that I can, because I think writers always expect their work to be written or to be read, and people fill in all the spots as they drink in the book or the poem or the essay or whatever it is that the writer's working on. And what I do is not really rocket science, and a lot of it can be learned in a really short period of time. And so basically I just come in and I tell them, the audience is really your friend. They're not really your enemy. They've been getting ready, to come and see you for weeks, and they're hoping that you're going to give a read that's so engaging that they're going to break down in tears at the end and walk away and go, "Oh my God, that was the best story I've ever heard in my life." And then, because I realized when I first started working with Penn that people that gave great reads sold books.
Right.
And
totally true. It doesn't matter how great the work is, if they're not presenting, no one's listening.
Yeah. And so I just give them as many tricks as I possibly can in a short period of time. And then, like all the other mentors, I make sure that they have my email address so that they've got any more questions, they can contact me. I mean, there's been a lot of students a lot of great writers that have come out of this program that are so talented on the page, and they, for one reason or another, have blocks about performing their work or getting out of their head, their writing head into a performing head. And so I help them, become a superhero if that's what it takes for them to get their project out, or to imagine themselves being a Gandalf-like character from Lord of the Rings and sharing a great story about a hobbit. And there's a when you do something for 40 years, you find a lot of different ways to skin the cat. And so, I just share all that stuff with them, and it makes a profound difference in their careers, because they look at their presenting in a completely different way. And I can't take any credit for it because it's all their work. I just try to set them up for success in a way that they can set themselves up for success every time they go and read their work. And
I'd like you to know that you do have a profound effect on these writers. I'm sitting here looking at Natalie Monn's essay she just turned in, And basically, she's talking about, she's our creative nonfiction writer this year. She's a Mexican, Filipino, East Indian woman who grew up in the San Fernando Valley. She's writing some real serious stuff, and she basically said that she became a writer because she was comfortable in the silence. She had a hard time accepting attention from people. She kind of wanted to be invisible, and it made you telling her that her story was important, and that voice is an important part of being a writer and presentation, really resonated with her. And I'll tell you, she said, as a memoirist, I felt vulnerable reading my sensitive piece, but with Dave's feedback, I realized that what I wrote had weight. And it's so interesting that you said, that the idea of making someone cry, because she says, at the night of the Hotel Cafe reading, I didn't shake. I took a breath and channeled words in a way I had never done before. They carried through my body, through my voice. They made someone cry. My words mattered.
Oh my gosh, I got chills.
Yeah. So I feel like
so
when
good.
the writer is when the writer's open to what you're saying, like that's, the effect you have on the person is only as much as they're willing to hear it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've had some writers come in and they smile and they go, yeah, and then they walk out and they do the same thing, and you can't
exactly.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Yeah, but
exactly.
And especially her work is so powerful, and I told her, I was like, I'm concerned about you after your performance. And you need to be gentle with yourself, and because a lot of people don't understand that actors, musicians, we all get up on stage, and whether you realize it or not, we're breaking our chest open, taking our heart out, setting it on the stage, beating, and saying, go ahead, step on it if you have to understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
And then at the end, we have to pick it up off the stage with all the heel marks on it, put it back in, and then put ourselves back together.
Go on about your day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's a skill, too.
And that's like the best case scenario,
yeah.
like as far as I'm concerned. It's like that's when you get the best. You get the best writing, you get the best performance. It's the people that are afraid to do that or won't do that or resistant to that. Those are the people that, we forget.
Amanda, we have to wrap this up with questions about you next show. Cool?
Okay.
This next song by Eric Schermerhorn is called Codeine, from the album Lullaby for a Dragonfly. All right, so we're here with Simon Cole. Simon, thanks for coming on the show today.
You're welcome. Congratulations, Dave, on your new show.
Thanks so much. It's been a long road to get here. Let me ask you the first question so that people have a better idea of who I'm talking to. You're obviously a commercials director, among other things, writer, filmmaker. Can you give us a sketch of some of the probably more well-known commercials that you've helped create and make so famous?
Yes, of course, Dave. I mean, you're listening to a veteran of 1,500 commercials that I've made over the past 20 years. Some of them are best forgotten. Some of them I'm rather proud of. Three of which are in the New York Museum of Modern Art. That's the thing that impresses my mum more than anything else, and that's why, obviously, I do this.
Being in a museum is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, finally, these museums, especially modern art museums, are recognizing commercials as an art form. It's debatable whether it's an art because art has some truth in it. Not sure whether commercials have a truth, but they are finally recognizing it, and that's great. I think your listeners will know most of the Aflac Duck commercials that I direct and have directed over the years. They feature a kind of sort of annoying duck that says Aflac all the time, and I've been doing those for many years, and they're probably popular mainly because they run them all the time.
Yeah.
They have good writers. They are, the best of Madison Avenue writes those commercials. And the execution is pretty straightforward. We don't use a real duck. We use an animatronic duck. And then that duck has rods connected to its neck and its head and its back and its feet. And we sort of use puppetry to move the duck around, and then we paint the rods out in post.
Right. What else besides Aflac Ducks?
Well, I did all the Capital One Visigoth commercials. I've done everything from, Nike ads to Geico to Adidas to... I can't drive down the freeway in any area of America without passing shopping malls and fast food restaurants, and I've pretty much done everything, from Burger King to McDonald's to everything. So I'm sort of, in a way, the king of commercials, but that is a bit like being the world's tallest midget. Is that really something to shout about? Within my industry, it kind of is, and people tend to be interested about it for about 15 minutes, which is probably how long this interview is going to last.
No. We're going to go a little bit longer.
Oh, good. Thank you, Dave.
We're going to go a little bit longer. It always amazes me because between the two of us, we've probably done 3,000 or 4,000 different commercials.
Mm-hmm.
I've done thousands, I know, on radio and TV, and as well as cartoons and whatnot. And we never got the chance to work together. It still blows my mind between the two of us how many we've done, and yet we've never had the chance to work together. Someday we'll get that. We'll get that chance.
Love to.
I've got an interesting question for you. You make 30-second and 60-second and 15-second, 10-second spots. Why does it take so many words in production and so many people to make a 30-second Hallmark commercial? And And I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but why do directors make the big money?
Well, the reason it takes so many people to create 10 seconds or 30 seconds of film of a commercial is mainly because every single element of what we do is scrutinized, from the dialogue that they use, to the casting of the people, to the locations, to the position of the product on the table, to the attitude, to the sunshine, to the lighting, to the positive nature. Every single thing is scrutinized by a committee of people. When I'm directing on a commercial, it's not like I'm a lone auteur warrior facing the battle alone. Behind me, sitting on a row of directors' chairs, is about 20 people, all of which are reacting to each shot and each performance and each situation and each look. So more than anything, commercials are really a sort of collective of ideas and criticisms and attitudes. And in the end, the job really is to navigate this collective thought and try and condense it down to something coherent that you can create when you're shooting. So it takes an enormous amount of people. And before I get on the set or on the shoot, they've been sitting with this 30-second commercial or even a 10-second commercial for months and months with the client on Madison Avenue, doing research, doing testing, doing marketing. So by the time it gets on the shoot, it's kind of 9 months down the road. And then there's 3 months of what I do, and then it finally goes on to air. And the reason why is every single shot counts in a commercial. There's an average of 21 shots in a 30-second commercial. Now, in a movie, that is a ridiculous amount of shots. You can't tolerate that amount of cuts over a long period of time. But when we shoot commercials, we shoot at least 21 shots. So each shot lasts about a second, or less than a second. So in the end, every single decision counts because everything will be scrutinized. So that's the reason why there are so many people involved. As for why commercials directors get paid so much, and we get about anything from $25,000 to $35,000 a day, is a complete mystery to me.
No, it's not. Because I also know that, you do a ton of work getting ready to go in and do your 2 days of shoots, but you only get paid for those 2 days, right?
Well, that's right. So really, we get a lot per day, but if you spread it over the amount of preparation work we do, it's kind of appropriate. And another thing is we're responsible for sometimes $1 to $2 to $3 million worth of budget money that we are responsible for. And if everything goes wrong, then we're responsible to reshoot it or redo it if it's our fault for messing it up or causing a problem. So there's an enormous amount of responsibility when you're spending $3 million in 3 days that you take on, and quite often a financial reward is balanced by the responsibility that you take on.
Because the makeup person doesn't care about it like you do.
No, and I obviously care about the makeup person.
You have to.
I have to, but ultimately I'm paid to care that much about something that basically is meaningless. And I don't know whether your audience can relate to that, but to care deeply and passionately about something that makes no sense takes an enormous amount of skill. And I'm there for that, especially with that kind of money.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to wrap it up right there, Simon. But there's a couple more questions that I want to ask you. So we're going to pick up this after we say goodbye for right now, and we're going to pick it up next show. So thank you very much, Simon, for coming on today. And don't go anywhere because we're going to finish this up. And we're going to move on Hollywood in Hollywild Radio. We're just about out of time. Next show, we'll pick it up where we left off with Simon, Amanda, and Eric. Dig a little deeper, get some more knowledge bombs, and hear more great music. I'm Dave Thomas. Thanks for dropping by out here in the country and setting a spell while we share and hopefully inspire the artists of tomorrow. Keep an eye out for wildlife as you drive home. It needs every bit of help we can give it. And watch where you step. There's critters everywhere. Okay, so that's the first radio show. I should probably give a shout out to all my neighborhood. Hey, to all you nice people that wave on the road when I'm driving in opposing traffic. I love living out here. And I want to say hey to my neighbors, Garrett and Reagan. Thanks for those fancy chicken eggs. And if you want another quiche, I'll trade you for some more eggs. Hollywood and Hollywild is broadcast Sundays at 12 noon and Thursday evenings at 6:30 on KRYZ 98.5 LPFM and KRYZradio.org, broadcast from beautiful Mariposa, California's cultural nexus since 1850. I should say thanks to Greg for the nice article in the Mariposa Gazette, publishing since, 163 years. And, let's see. Say hi to my mom. Hi, Mom. This is what I did. I love you.